Henry Stickmin games are a series of choose-your-own-adventure style point-and-click action games where you decide the fate and help to shape the life of the protagonist Stickman character, Henry Stickmin. But what if there was something more sinister going on in the game? And what if the options you were offered for Henry were much less fun and more horrific in nature? Welcome back, my fellow gamers. Today we'll be counting down the top 10 Henry Stickmin Creepypastas. Ooh, these games can be funny, but did you know they can also be scary? But before we get to it, I need to let you know about something exciting that is happening, something amazing that is coming back. Our old channel, Landon Production, is coming back to life and you need to check it out.
Is the Canada Goose gonna take it on? Oh
I'm on top like I'm goddamn Mario, right? I'm just
Not today! Maybe tomorrow! Okay, is this real life right now?
Head on over to Landon Production on YouTube and smash that sub if you haven't already to support the channel. Now, let's get counting. Number 10, die, die, die. And then die some more. One time my friend told me they went on to play Breaking the Bank, but something happened and their game glitched out. Apparently they believe they accessed some alternative version of the game written into the code but locked away and hidden. They started out playing as Ellie and were attempting to break into the bank, but instead of the normal options, their only options were die, 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 die. Each one yielded different results, but every ending was bloody whether it granted success or failure. The game was also timed, giving them added pressure to select the correct die option as fast as possible with no other knowledge as to what would happen. Number 9, hyper real version. I played a bootleg version of the game that was described in the description on the browser I downloaded it from as being hyper real. Imagine what it is like to be Henry Stickmin, the description read. I was curious, so I downloaded it and got ready to play, but I wasn't really ready for what happened next. When the game loaded up, I saw Henry, but instead of him being a cartoon Stickman, he was like an emaciated human. His bones showed through his skin, but he had a huge bulbous head. His eyes took up 80% of his face and his mouth was very small and very close to the ear on the left side of his body. He was bald and I watched in horror as his eyebrows, dripping with blood, seemed to levitate above his face, but were actually raised off of his scalp with some kind of clear plastic sticks. I felt my stomach churn and I ran to the bathroom to be sick. When I came back, my computer had crashed, and when I managed to reset it, the game was gone. I haven't been able to find the site I downloaded it from since, although I honestly can't say I'd be happy to find it again. Number 8, The Triple Threat Show, episode 666. The Triple Threat Show was a show I used to love to watch on A983 network. If you don't believe me that it's real, you can search it on YouTube. The show is inspired by Henry Stickmin and centers around a talk show featuring him, Ellie Rose, Charles Calvin, Helia, Tunia, and many others. I knew the show was dark, but I never knew it was this dark. I found a DVD one time that appeared when we were out on a hike. The DVD was not branded, but it had written in Sharpie on the front, The Triple Threat Show, Henry Goes Mad. Being that I love that show, we decided to take the DVD home and play it. When it started, after we hit play, a title card came up that read episode 666, Henry Goes Mad. The episode featured a story where we saw Henry and all of his friends die, many of them stabbed to death by Henry himself. Ellie eventually attempted to get revenge on Henry for killing everyone, shooting Henry right in the face, but he swatted the bullet back at her, killing her instead. It ended with a montage of all the death at one point, and I just couldn't hold back my tears or my disgust at this traumatizing episode. We destroyed the DVD and threw it away, but be warned, if you ever find a DVD with the words Triple Threat Show, Henry Goes Mad, do not pick it up. The episode was so horrifying and awful that I cried myself to sleep. Number 7, Extra Gore. This is a hacked version of the game that you used to be able to find for infiltrating the airship. I'm not sure if it's still around anymore, but like I said, it used to be. In this version of the game, every failure is more horrifying because it's gory, super gory. When you are crushed, you see Henry's eyes pop out of his head. When doors are closing all around you, instead of putting a crumpled dent in one, you are sliced in half and you see Henry's guts explode out of him. The gore is super realistic to the point that when I played this hacked version, I actually vomited. There are never any deaths here that aren't horrific. One in the hamster ball resulted in me being tossed around in the ball and watching as every bone in Henry's body broke with the realistic sound effects. It wasn't quick, it was like a 30-second animated death. What's more, they make Henry look less cartoony and somehow more real. There is a rumor that this version of the game was made by a deranged former doctor who actually used real images from real patients to create some of the gore used in it. Number 6. Infiltrating the airship hacked version. It was a Friday night, meaning I didn't have school tomorrow. I had finished breaking the bank, escaping the prison, and stealing the diamond when it came to the Harry Stickmin games, so I searched around for infiltrating the airship. I couldn't find the original game, but I did find a hacked version. A modded version of the game I'd already played sounded cool. I hopped on Discord and started a call with 2 of my friends, which I'll name here as Jacob and Diego. I was trying to get to the rank of government-supported private investigator. The initial cutscene was the same, but this time when I chose to use the vacuum, I noticed that instead of the person being stuck in the vacuum, they were torn to pieces inside, shredded and gruesomely killed. During a fail, I noticed Henry was stabbed and covered in blood before being tossed from the airship. The game seemed to continue on this way and was much more violent than the original. The first fail screen I got read as the description, "Oh yeah, I forgot. Death is very common in stick figures." I could only play for so long before I needed to log off. I was so traumatized. I went to bed early in an attempt to clear my head. Number 5. Secret ending. This was a supposed secret ending for fleeing the complex, where instead of being stuck in prison, being betrayed, or escaping, you become the prison guard. The game goes on for quite a bit longer, and you're forced to punish other prisoners, including your potential ally Ellie. You're forced to torture them, and in the end, you have to kill Ellie for trying to escape. You have no choices to spare people as you are undercover as a prison guard and must maintain this secret identity. All you can do is choose how to kill and how to torture people. I have never found this secret ending, but I have heard that it exists from a few other friends who are obsessed with the Henry Stickmin games. Number 4. The give up option. I was about to play a fan-made version of Henry Stickmin. This one was called Escaping the Prison, the give up option. I decided for fun to record my playthrough. This is what happened next. The game started. The cutscene, however, did not appear to load. Weird, I thought. One of the options that I saw available read, give up. I'd never seen this option before, so I clicked it. When I did, the screen seemed to glitch quickly before going to a black screen for about 10 seconds. Then it came back on and showed a scene where Harry Stickmin hung himself. There was some eerie music in the background. I was horrified. The game over screen then appeared, but instead of saying fail, it said good job, you killed Henry. I exited the game and immediately deleted it. Number 3. Hungry Henry. There is a rumor online that somewhere on the dark web you can find a version of this game where Henry is a cannibal and seeks to eat anyone who opposes him that gets in his way. All the options are eat and show a picture of a knife and fork. There are no fails, as every time you eat you are successful. You then have to watch Henry kill and eat his enemies. And there is apparently a lot of blood and gore in the game, and a lot of creepy smiles from Henry at the prospect of eating people. The only way you fail is when you eat too much, which seems to happen randomly. Sometimes you'll eat, and if you've eaten more than 20 people, there is a small chance that Henry will explode, splattering a bloody mess on the screen with a game over title card that reads fail, spelled out with what looks like intestines. Number 2. Insane smile. I have never experienced this option in the game, but my friend swears they did, and they have screen caps to prove it, so I believe them. This was something that was shared with me a while ago. It was described that while playing Fleeing the Complex, my friend was given an option while facing some guards and trying to get around to smile. No one I know other than them has ever described or seen this option in the game. They selected smile also because they had never seen it before and like dancing and thought that it would also be a funny option. It was not. What they saw next was Henry's smile so wide that it looked painful. His smile passed the side of his face, and it also was animated to look bloody, like he had smiled his lips apart or something. If he had lips, I guess. When he went up to the guards with his smile, they were about to attack him, but then he just forced their mouths to smile using his hands to pull their lips into a grin, wider and wider until their faces were torn apart. Number 1. I, Henry. Don't play hacked versions of this game. I cannot warn you enough. It's not worth it. You can hurt yourself. I played a hacked version once called I, Henry. It posed that it told a new story, one where Henry had been kidnapped and captured and was being interrogated. You have to survive the interrogation to continue. It was also VR, which I found pretty interesting and was what initially drew me to it. A VR version of an old Flash style game? Weird but intriguing. I had to play it. I got much more than I bargained for though when it came to the interactive experience. What the description didn't mention was that this was a torture game, and that once you put the VR headset on, you would not be able to get it off, no matter what you tried. The game wouldn't let you exit or unplug it until you finished, and you had to watch every gruesome torture scene and experience it before the game would end. At one point, I even felt like I was physically being tortured alongside Henry. When he was burned, my skin felt hot. When he was stabbed, I felt a sharp pain. It was horrifying. Do not play hacked versions of this game. Don't do it. Wow, with all its charm and various hilarious references to all kinds of games, I never thought this game could be so dark, and yet I never thought these games could be so dark, and yet here we are. People look for darkness in even the brightest of places because I guess they just enjoy being scared so much. I'm assuming that's why you're all here. This was Top 10 Gaming, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, saying thank you so much for watching and reminding you till next time to keep on gaming on. Pew pew! You asked for them and you got them. We have more Henry Stickmin Creepypastas for you. Yes, much excite, but excite of course of the scary variety. Prepare to get spooked once more, my fellow gamers, and welcome back. I'm your host Amanda McKnight, and this is Top 10 Gaming, where we talk about gaming and sometimes the scarier sides of it. Today we'll be taking a look once more at Henry Stickmin, the choose your own adventure games where you make decisions for the protagonist, Henry Stickmin, and help shape him into the stick figure and type of professional you want him to be. And where you also watch him die a bunch. That happens a lot. Join me as we count down the top 10 Scary Henry Stickmin Creepypastas Part 2. Now, let's get counting. Number 10. Distraction Death. I never thought I'd encounter something like this when playing the Henry Stickmin games. I don't know if this was just some kind of glitch in Puffball's game or if it was where I got the game from online, but yeah, there was something weird about it, and I don't think it was something that was meant to happen. I'll let you decide. I was playing Fleeing the Complex, but when I selected Distraction Dance, instead of everyone joining me in dancing, they all took out knives and slit their own throats, dropping dead. Henry, instead of reacting, continued to dance on happily. This happened a few more times in the game after. When I looked it up, I noticed the option for Distraction Dance was only supposed to come up once and should not have resulted in such a grisly display of violence. Number 9. Henry the Creep. This is a weird story because it's about a game I love coming into another game that I love, but definitely not in a way that I love. When I was exploring Vault 108 in Fallout, instead of running into the Gary clones and that story, I ran into Henry clones. But Henry as if he were imported into Fallout, making him look far more horrific and far more violent in the case of these clones. I know you can make some pretty freaky looking characters in the Fallout games when you do your character's customization at the beginning, but this was original Fallout and this was an NPC, so I don't know how it happened. I was playing without any mods on, by the way. The Henrys were rail thin but with giant hands and feet. Their hands were also almost claw-like, with giant sausage fingers that narrowed at the tips. All of their heads were huge with tiny little mouths and giant overstretched and bloody eyes, like something out of a horror movie. I killed all the Henrys and immediately got out of there. I haven't played Fallout or Henry Stickmin since. What time is it? Click that like time. Also adventure time. The answer is always adventure time. And you can go on an adventure by heading down to that like and giving it a quick click. Please and thank you. Number 8. Stickminverse. My friend played through the Henry Stickmin games for the first time a few weeks ago and just couldn't stop. She played through every option and played through them multiple times to the point that she almost has all the paths memorized and the whole script for the game committed to memory as well. However, last week she seemingly disappeared. She wasn't at school, she wasn't online, I couldn't get a hold of her. I myself have played the Henry Stickmin games, but I haven't played them for quite a while and decided to revisit them when I was thinking of her the other day and wondering where she was or what she was up to. Something strange happened whenever I played. Instead of it being Ellie in the game, it was a blonde girl with big gray eyes. That looks like my friend, I thought. Then she spoke, and when she spoke, she sounded just like her. "Help me, I'm stuck in the game," she cried. I was freaked out. I wanted to help, but I didn't know how to communicate that with her. I still haven't seen her since, other than in the game. Every time she asks for help, and every time I don't know what to do. I'm too scared to tell anyone, but I don't know how to get her out of the game by myself, or even how she got in there in the first place. Number 7. Diamond Eats You. Something went wrong in this game. I played a modded version where the diamond comes to life after you capture it and you have to fight it. The problem is, no matter what option you pick, all of the weapons and gadgets you have access to are trying to cut through the diamond, but none of them are strong enough. Diamonds are known for being strong. Duh. Anytime you fail, which is every time, you are forced to watch as the diamond slowly and painfully eats Henry. It takes a minute to watch him die each time, and while all the cutscenes of him doing so are different, they are all still intensely gruesome. Number 6. Hello, Charlie. Henry had always loved the Henry Stickmin games. To say he was obsessed was an understatement. Maybe it was because he had the same name as the protagonist, or maybe it was just because the games were so funny. Who knows? But he loved them. He was going on a trip actually to the Netherlands, where they randomly had a Henry Stickmin escape room opening up, and being that he was the #1 fan, he begged his parents to take him, so they planned a vacation in the Netherlands. The plane ride was pretty routine, but as soon as they were up in the air, he noticed he had a message on his phone. It was a text. It read, "Did you need a lift?" and the text appeared to be signed Charlie. He thought it was weird that the text was signed, but paid no mind otherwise. He looked out the window and saw a helicopter in the distance. He thought he saw someone waving at him. His phone buzzed again. This time he was getting a call. How was this possible, he thought. Phones didn't normally work on airplanes. He usually had no signal whatsoever. When he answered, all he could hear was breathing. "Hi Henry, how's it going? What do you need, buddy?" He heard a familiar voice say. He watched as the helicopter seemed to move closer towards them, getting far too close. Everyone else in the plane didn't seem to notice though. He could see the pilot of the helicopter now. His face was sheet white and his eyes were wide. He was on the phone. "I'm the bold action man!" Charlie screamed on the phone before smashing his helicopter into the plane young Henry was on. He never made it to the Netherlands, nor did anyone else on board. Number 5. Summon Them. I downloaded a hacked version of a Henry Stickmin game called Summoning Them. I thought it would be a game about all of Henry's friends coming together for a team heist, but it was not. It was something much darker. In the game you had to gather certain artifacts and jewels, and it ended with the ritualistic sacrifice of Ellie and Charlie, which you were forced to do in order to bring about demonic, godlike beings. The game ends in horror and chaos as you watch Henry have the skin peeled from his bones. Number 4. Eyes That Follow. My whole room is Henry Stickmin. I've even had things I couldn't find custom made, just so I could cover my room in everything Henry. Usually when I really like a game, I get my whole room turned into a kind of tribute to it, a celebration of it. One thing I had custom made recently was a picture for my wall. It was a giant heavy framed picture of Henry and the whole crew. My parents apparently ordered it from a custom shop online that they found but never ordered from before. Life paintings? This painting was special, they said, and they were not wrong. One morning I woke up and I thought I saw someone in the corner of my room. I blinked and they were gone. This kept happening every morning to the point that I got my eyes checked. Something else was strange. I was noticing that the characters in my painting seemed to be changing position, making me think at night they left the painting to watch me sleep. My parents, however, thought this was all in my head and didn't notice anything different about their poses in the painting. I have removed the painting from my wall since, and am contemplating what I should do next. Has anyone else experienced anything like this or heard of this company? I can no longer find any trace of them online. Please help. Number 3. Henry Made Me. I live by a correctional facility, aka a prison, and every day on my way to school I walk past it. This has never bothered or scared me until recently. After walking home from school one day, I thought I heard someone shouting my name from one of the distant windows in the prison, but I couldn't quite tell. It's pretty far away. The next day while walking to school, I heard it again. I couldn't quite make out what was being said, but it sounded like my name. On my way home, I was prepared to record it, which I did to help me discern if it was my name or not. I rushed home and uploaded the file, slowed it down, played around with it. It turned out it wasn't my name. My name is Harry, but the name being shouted out was Henry. Henry, 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 get me out of here. I looked it up online and found out in the news there was a man who had recently been imprisoned there who was obsessed with the Henry Stickmin games. He had murdered 4 people during an attempted bank robbery, claiming Henry had made him do it. Number 2. Choose my own adventure. My friend fell asleep playing Henry Stickmin, and if there is one thing I can stress from this story, it's that you be careful not to do so. It can not only cause harm to you, but also to other people around you. My friend, we'll call her Olivia, ended up waking up the next day. Everything seemed normal, but she later found out it wasn't. She was forced to make choices like in the game, and everything paused around her. The unfortunate thing is that most of her choices led to someone dying or being dismembered. Eventually, her whole family was dead, and she was the only one left, all because of simple decisions that she had made. She broke down and finally told me this at her little sister's funeral, but apparently I wasn't the only one she told, because she was shortly after taken away to a mental institution. She has since escaped and is considered at large. Number 1. Bag surprise. My brother loved the Henry Stickmin games. He played them and watched tons of other YouTube gaming personalities play them as well. I never thought these games could cause any kind of problem for him, but then this happened. It's my job to take out the trash every Thursday night. I hate doing it, but it's one of my chores and my parents were nagging me. My brother said he'd take the bag out of the bin for me and replace it so that all I would have to do was tie it up and take it outside. Because my little brother was the best. What I didn't know is that this was all part of his plan. I went to take out the trash and my brother had already gone up to bed. The bag was there, untied, some nasty food on the top that looked pretty expired, so I tied it quickly, not being able to handle the stench. I took the bag out to the trash. I went to bed thinking nothing of it, until the next day, when my brother went missing. Friday is trash day on our street, and it turned out what had happened was, like in the Henry Stickmin games, my brother had hid himself in the bag, had me tie him up in there without knowing, and had gotten thrown in the trash. I had slept in and was only made aware by my parents, who woke me up to tell me my brother was dead and had been crushed to death by a trash compactor. I never cried so hard in my life. Please remember, things you see in a video game should not be attempted in real life. Creating a real-world game experience is not worth dying for. Lots of people choosing scary, it seems, when it comes to Henry Stickmin and these stories. I can't imagine what it would be like to be trapped inside a Henry Stickmin game. Maybe if you choose the right series of options, you'd be able to escape. That would be my thinking. What do you think would be the best strategy there? And what are some of your favorite creepypastas? Did any of these scare you? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Gaming, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you to keep on gaming on. Pew pew! Even more Henry Stickmin Creepypastas. This is Top 10 Gaming, and I'm Amanda McKnight. You scream, I scream, we all scream for more creepypastas, so join me as we count down the top 10 Henry Stickmin Creepypastas Part 3. And if you've missed Parts 1 and 2, head back to check them out if you need even more creepypastas in your life. Part 2 in fact has one of my all-time favorites, so you definitely want to check that out. Alright, now let's get creepy and get counting. Number 10, Crushed by Diamonds. I didn't even realize I was playing a hacked version of the game till it was too late. My friend had loaned it to me, and when I got near the end of stealing the diamond during the aggressive ending, instead of it being a happy ending, it was a gruesome one. I kicked the diamond off the bridge and I fell with it, but when it showed Henry on the shore, instead of being fine, he had tons of shards of diamonds in him. He was a gory mess, and the diamond had somehow shattered from the fall and cut him up and killed him. The whole game had endings like this. They were all filled with gore and death, and none of them were positive. Has anyone else played this hack before? Number 9, Breaking In the Secret Sequel. I love playing the Henry Stickmin games, or I used to anyway, before something really strange happened. This was the experience I had last time I played. I'm not certain if it is some kind of coincidence, or maybe I imagined it, but I'm posting it here to see what other people think about it. I was playing Stealing the Diamond, but during my playthrough, after it was finished, I noticed that I could continue playing. After I successfully got away from the cops, I was given the option to sleep or lay low. I chose to lay low, which led me to arriving at a house, which I then attempted to break into and hide out. The front door was strikingly blue. The weird thing was that the house seemed familiar, but I couldn't quite remember where I'd seen it, or that big blue door before. While I was in the house, I was also given the option to add to my stash of loot and steal more valuables, and I decided to go this route cause it seemed fun. I finished the game, and although it had been an ending I never played through before, I didn't think much more of it. Until I learned a couple days later that while my friend and neighbor Terry and his family had been on vacation, someone broke into their home and stole many of their valuables. It was then I remembered why the home had been so familiar. It was Terry's house. That blue door was his house's front door. Do you think this is just a coincidence? The game looked exactly like the inside of his house. And if this did happen, where is Henry now? Number 8. Killing the Complex. This was a hacked version of Escaping the Complex that my friend Lee claimed to have played. She said it was horrifying. At start, instead of focusing on escaping the complex, you have to focus on killing everyone inside the complex. The game ends with you not escaping, but being forced to take your own life, and if you get to the part where you and Ellie are escaping together, hers too. If Charles comes to your rescue instead, you're forced to try and kill him. And all the deaths are gruesome and much more violent. Henry also has a crazed look in his eyes the entire time, like he's some murderer on death row. Number 7. Like Henry. This is a story about Laura. Laura loved playing the Henry Stickmin games and always wanted to be funny like Henry and try some of his antics. Of course, she didn't have access to a lot of the equipment seen in the games and knew that most of it wasn't real anyways. However, one day she went on a trip to a war museum. Here they had a working cannon that they even planned on firing later in the day to show the students, as they also had their own safe shooting range. Laura made note of this, very interested in the cannon. The end of the day came and they returned to fire it. The cannon had already been prepped, all that was left to do was light it, which the tour guide did, keeping the children and their teacher at a safe distance back. However, when the cannon fired, it seemed to spit only a bit of liquid a good distance away and nothing else. They later learned that Laura had managed to slip away and had been hiding, waiting to be fired inside the cannon. Much like how it had gone for Henry, she was killed by the cannon's fire, though a lot more gruesomely, having been blown apart while inside it. Number 6. Imposters. I never believed the theories that the Henry Stickmin games existed in the same universe as Among Us, until I experienced this weird glitch while playing. I hope it was a glitch at least. There is really no other way to explain it other than some parts of these games coming to life, which I refuse to accept because it makes me sound like I'm going insane. I was playing Among Us with some friends and was playing as the only imposter when there was a body reported that I didn't kill. I was confused. How could this be possible? I hadn't killed Yellow and yet they were dead, reported dead in electrical. Then I noticed something strange while wandering in the ship after avoiding getting ejected. My friend's pet was roaming without them. It was one of the stick figure guys, except it didn't look like just any stick figure, it looked exactly like Henry Stickmin. It was smaller, but I could see it holding a bloody butcher knife. I turned to run in terror before I ran into my other friend's buddy, the female stick figure who now appeared to be Ellie, also wielding a bloody knife. I watched as she murdered me and both of them laughed over my corpse before disappearing from the screen. This has to be some kind of glitch or hack, right? Number 5. The Ultimate End. My friend Calvin experienced a weird glitch while playing Stealing the Diamond, one that was so disturbing he has found himself unable to continue playing the games. This glitch, or whatever it was, happened during stealing the diamond after he stole it. He played through the choices as normal, trying to escape, but noticed that every now and then different choices also seemed to affect his health meter. No matter what choices he made, Henry would always die the same way, looking tired and collapsing. After the 5th death, he got the ultimate end, which showed after Henry collapsed a later time and a cutscene where Henry was taken to the hospital. It showed him looking very sick, with all his skin beginning to peel off, turning him into a bloody mess. And it was explained that the diamond had actually been radioactive, giving him various types of cancer, and would ultimately end in a painful death. This is the punishment for you trying on repeat, the ending subtitle read. Number 4. Henry Horror. This was a horror hacked version of the game I played called HenryHorror.exe. I downloaded it off a site I'd found and thought it might be fun to play a scary version of the game. What I downloaded though was so much more than a game. The site warned of how real the game could get, but I just brushed it off as the creator trying to scare people even more when they started. The title screen came up and it also warned once more of highly realistic experiences and how anything that you could hear, feel, or smell should not be investigated while playing. The game is best played in the dark with screen brightness reduced and headphones on. I followed all of these recommendations. It begins with a jump scare of Henry's face peering out at you. Henry has dozens of rows of sharp teeth and he looks very tired. He speaks in a low voice and tells you there is a prize greater than any diamond that awaits you if you succeed. I couldn't make it as far as I wanted because as soon as the game started and I chose my first option, chainsaw, I could hear one right behind me. I took off the headphones and could still hear it. I then felt something come down right next to me, cutting through the air. I jumped up and ran for the lights, but there was nothing there, and the sound appeared to be coming from my monitor. My headphones had become unplugged. I did not continue after that. Number 3. Join us. If your name is Henry, do not play the Henry Stickmin games. Of course, my name is Henry and I did just that. This is an account of what happened to me. I had been watching playthroughs of the games on YouTube, so I saved up some allowance money to buy the games on Steam. I had just launched the games after my parents had both left on the weekend for work. All alone, I watched as the main menu came up, with all the episodes shown as being unlocked. Everything had seemed normal, except instead of Henry being there, it was me, and below were 2 words that read, "Join us." I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I rubbed my eyes and when I opened them again, it was gone. I started an episode that was called Completing the Mission, and planned on finishing with the triple threat ending. When I started, Ellie was there, but not Henry, and she seemed to be peering out of the screen, looking directly into my own eyes. Later, when Ellie went into Charles's helicopter, Charles seemed to address me specifically, looking up from the screen and asking, "Hey buddy, why are you not in here with us?" I got freaked out, so I decided to take a nap and try to clear my head. When I woke up, Ellie and Charles were in my room, appearing as they did in the video game, living cartoons. "So, you want us to visit you instead?" Ellie asked. I felt strange and I ran to the bathroom, but when I looked in the bathroom mirror, I noticed I was no longer myself, but the living cartoon version of Henry Stickmin. Terrified, I let out a long scream before collapsing. Number 2. The taste of energy. Mark was always allowed to get one item from the grocery store when he went shopping with his parents. This time around, while wandering the soda aisle, he noticed a new brand of energy drink, one that he had to have. It was Energy, the same brand from the Henry Stickmin games. He asked his dad, who initially didn't want to let him have it. Mark was only 13 and energy drinks were for adults, and even then, not good for you. But Mark pleaded, "Please," he asked. "The next 3 trips I promise to ask for something healthy instead of a snack, and I'll never drink another energy drink again." His dad smiled, he couldn't say no, and so he agreed to the deal. Mark got his energy drink. He was so excited, he brought it to school to show all of his friends. They were all impressed, and one kid, who was kind of known for being rude and mean, dared him to drink it. Jared. Mark was hesitant. There was no irregular warnings on the bottle, all of it looked pretty legit and standard, but in the game, the drink killed you. The moment's pause was all Jared needed to snatch it out of Mark's hand, open it, and down it in almost one gulp, letting out a loud burp in Mark's face. Though that was the last Mark saw of him, because he then vanished from everyone's sight. The teachers began a search, but there was no sign of Jared. No one knew what happened. The next day, however, he was found dead, just down the street from the school. His face was stark white, and he appeared to have been clutching at his chest when he died. Number 1. Gravitor 2.0. My one friend became way too obsessed with the Henry Stickmin games, to the point that they no longer played anything else, just the same franchise on repeat. It got to the point where they actually didn't want to do anything anything else besides play the games, and they locked themselves away. They stopped coming to school or hockey practice. One day I decided to do something about it and went to visit them. Their parents let me in and I saw them hunched over the computer playing. It looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. Their parents were worried, but every time they tried to take them away from the computer, they screamed non-stop until they were permitted to play again. Apparently, they also started hallucinating. When I talked to them, they thought they were Henry Stickmin. They kept mumbling about it. I tried to talk some sense into them, but they only took it as a challenge. Suddenly, they pushed me aside, pulled a device out of their pocket, and shouted, "Gravitor 2.0 activate," before smashing out of their bedroom window. They lived in a condo on the 12th story. I couldn't bring myself to look out the window. I was so shocked. They died, and I'm currently a suspect in their murder trial. I didn't kill them though, I swear. Don't get obsessed with this game, it will make you go insane. Which do you think is the scariest creepypasta? And if you wrote your own Henry Stickmin Creepypasta, what would it be about? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Gaming, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, saying thanks for watching and reminding you to keep on gaming on. Pew pew!